Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews, and I am joined with a friend, amazing person in the industry, and I just cannot wait for this conversation. So, Lindie, jump on here and introduce yourself.
So my name is Lindie Aragon. I'm a chemist with the City of Westminster in Colorado. So I've been a chemist for about 10 years. I'm excited to be part of this podcast.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for y'all that have been following us, you've probably seen Lindy before. She was part of our water skills team that went over to EFAT and won the Empowering Women team that was over there. But like she said, her day job is there as a chemist, working with water, wastewater. And so we were thinking about Drinking Water Week and some other things. And of course, Lindy comes to mind now anytime I think about water. And so, Lindy, I wanted to hear kind of from you, and I know you're more on the wastewater side, but you see that and see all of the interactions on Drinking Water Week and just how that works within your job, and I guess just how you're still kind of passionate about water.
So the city has a drinking water lab and a wastewater lab. And for wastewater, we basically monitor any water coming into the plant. And we want to make sure anything that we discharge is up to our standards. So from the state and the EPA, we get a permit where we're required to monitor BODs, CODs, total suspended solids, a lot of nutrients. And this is what we do in-house. So I think last year we did like 7,000 samples in-house. I mean, just outrageous. And we also do our wet testing in-house, which I brought in, which that's like my baby that I took on, and we do in-house and the only lab in the state to do in-house. I'm trying to think what else we monitor in the collection systems. We go out and pop manholes and pull samples out there. We monitor our biosolids before we apply them on our farms. We have about 4,000 acres out in Strasburg, and we truck our biosolids out there and apply them to our farms. So we do a lot of monitoring before we do that. And we also sample the soil to see how many like pounds we can apply per each farm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, what is this specific to Colorado, that kind of these requirements, or is that across the board normally?
Across the board.
Okay, wonderful. So this is what's happening, y'all, out there who are not in the water space that are listening to this, so that we can make sure that we do send out the water back into the environment, meeting these standards, so that we can enjoy, water life, marine environments, those kind of things. And so I'm excited about knowing how y'all work together, that on the clean water side and then in the wastewater stream, and how that all ties back together. So the circle of water is one of those things that it's complex, but it's simple. And we've seen the diagrams and everything that it kind of like, pointed out to you. But then it's really just everyday life. You have to kind of apply it to how you use water. And so we can all think about that, about how we drink water, how we get rid of our waste of our own bodies. But what about like plants? You were talking about kind of how you go out to farms and things. What about like plants and testing around that? Like different facilities, do they have requirements, and how do y'all work with them?
For facilities in Colorado or
Yes. Yes.
yeah. Well, I mean, trying to think. We're each very plant specific. We all have our own permits. Depending on the water basin, there might be similarities between them. But I know Broomfield wastewater is right down the road, and they have uh, Rocky Flats that discharges to them. So they have a lot of different requirements, even though they're literally less than 4 miles from us. They have a lot of different requirements, but we work hand in hand with a intergovernmental agreement with all the people that discharge into Big Dry Creek, which is our receiving water. So we kind of work together in sample monthly, and each lab takes on a specific analyses, and then we all kind of combine them together at the end. So we do things like that to work together. And then with Stanley Lake, which is our drinking water, reservoir. A lot of the testing on there, we also kind of take part in as a group.
Yeah, so
And
I
so
love
we work
that. I love
together.
this collaboration and communication is key to all of this and making it work. So I love that too. So, how did you find yourself in the water industry, Lindy?
So it's kind of a funny story. When I graduated college, I told my parents, I'm like, I'm going to get a job in my degree because you always hear about the people that go to college and then they never use their degree. So I swore up and down to my parents that I was going to use it. And it turned out to be like a year later, I still didn't find anything. And there was a job opening for an internship as a bug picker. And so they would take these macroinvertebrate, like benthic water samples, and we would have to go through literally with tweezers and pick out all the bugs that we could see and sort them into their different families. And from there, they would get ID'd and they would use this data to assess if the stream was healthy or not. And so as a bookkeeper, I got paid $9 an hour and my neck was broken even at the age of like 19. But I worked through those samples and I was a book picker for I think 6 months. And then they brought me onto the lab. And it was a very wet testing specific lab. And they also did nutrients. And I worked my way up and ended up managing the lab. And from there, I came to the city of Westminster, but I started out as a bug picker.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me at the water skills and maybe I've been operations challenge where you have to take the tweezers and pull the cloth onto the testing. Do you know what I'm talking about? And you were so
Uh-huh.
fast at that that I'm just like, she's a little extra. You had like some technique
Yeah.
to get that done faster too. I love it.
Uh-huh. I figure if you're able to work through bug samples for 6 months, you could pretty much do anything. So I think that's why they test people out doing that first. And then
Yeah.
if you could do that, you could be in the lab. You're very meticulous.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think also you managing the lab and kind of putting that in there. I saw your natural leadership ability like first straight out the gate. I just noticed it. I loved being with you in Germany and kind of watching you kind of lead us around and different things there too. So you have that. And so it was so great to have her join us at Epic. We were at the Empowering Pumps and Industry Conference in Colorado, in her backyard. So she joined us. But I always ask Lindy these random questions, and she's able to answer them because she is doing the work in industry. So I'm thankful for that because we don't know the answers. We try to have these relationships with end users and people that work within these facilities and plants and everything. And the reason why is because we do get real questions um, from people, and we're like, I have no idea even where to start. And I just ask you, like, and there is like any direction we want to go here, right, of information. And so, anyway, I appreciate you in that. And I know I always ask you some random questions.
Love it. I love it. Keeps me on my toes.
Yes, and that also for everyone, let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in the Operations Challenge, how that started and kind of how you progressed through that, because I think that's also a leadership development activity or program.
Absolutely, it is. When I started at the city, they wanted to make an ops challenge team. And so they said, we need a lab person. Would you like to be in this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So in my head, I was thinking I personally would do the lab event and everyone else would do their own event. And I was shocked when I came to learn that I was going to need to know operations math. I was going to have to rebuild a pump. I was going to have to cut pipe, all these things. I'm like, what did I get myself into? So when we actually started competing and learning everything, I was like, it was a big challenge for me. I didn't know wastewater math. And so it's like, okay, I can learn this. I'm gonna learn this for my team. Like my team is depending on me. So we worked really hard and I got all my licenses. I'm a certified operator now. Just to help my team basically. And so we started competing well and we had the same four people for 2 years. Our first year we weren't very good, but we still went to Web Tech and we got second in the pump event.
Well,
I'm
they
sorry,
weren't very
second.
good. They weren't very good, but they won. Okay.
And then we went back and we got second. I'm sorry, we got second in process our first year, second in the pump our second year, and then third year we're like, okay, let's do this. So we ended up winning first in Division 2. So we moved to Division 1 with the big dogs, and so that's where we're competing now. And we're just kind of getting ramped up for this year, but hoping to bring some hardware home and see everyone at WEFTech.
Absolutely. And y'all do this like y'all practice together. There's kind of times set aside where you can how does that work within your like day job? Do you do it during the day? Do you have off-site meetings? What does that look like?
Oh, other plants they get to practice on, like they get paid to practice. We don't. So we actually have to practice on our own time, and we have our operators, they're on a rotating schedule. So sometimes they'll be on weekends, sometimes they're on weekend nights, weekday nights, so being in the lab, mine's very like Tuesday through Friday, very steady schedule. So we'll have to stay after to meet with the operators at like 6 o'clock at night to practice, or we'll come in on the weekends. And it's a lot of commitment and time outside of our day job. And so it's hard when people have kids or have other commitments outside to kind of juggle everything together. But I think once you walk on that stage at WebTech, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and just being there for your team and you get this family feel, this connected like teammates, right? And so I love how, just hearing that it is for you this kind of extra that you're putting this time for each other even outside of work. I think it's wonderful. But you're right. That energy there at the event itself is just so amazing. And I have always watched this before. My job for the last 20 years is to go to a trade show and walk the show floor and see our customers there. But I could not pass by the Ops Challenge without like being enthralled with it. So like I did spend time there more so after Charlie's Angels had when we sponsored them. That was our first all women's team. And that kind of set the stage for us to sponsor for empowering women in industry too. So I guess it lit the fire for me to just empower women in the operations space. I loved it so much because there was a need that I learned about, and that is with the proper PPE. And then if you've ever tried one of these trade shows to like take an impeller off or the bolts or different things, if you have the wrong size gloves, like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing to do. And so I just appreciate that so much after trying to do that and trying to do that with any type of speed and precision, like it's just going to go out the door if it's not the right size. So I just appreciated learning that and understanding that challenge for women. Um, and as that, you are one of those that have just been able to kind of thrive in this, environment. And I think you're a little competitive, so that helps.
Just a little, just a little.
Uh, so
Uh-huh.
so second is not enough there. So just be ready, the rest of you Ops Challenge people. She's coming for you. But that's one piece of your work. And then just being a good teammate. I've heard you say that and trying to do well for the others on your team, and you're doing that every day by making sure that the water that's going out is where it needs to be too. Is there anything else that you kind of have on your mind, something that you want to, let our audience know or that you've been thinking about in industry?
I think when thinking about my job, there have been two things that have surprised me. And number one is that, using all these appliances that are more efficient with water makes our job harder. And, that's always surprising because you always hear the good side of it, like water use, using less is better, but really it's harder for us because it's more concentrated. So that kind of surprised me. And I think the other part that surprised me is that we're kind of in the headwaters. We get the water first and it passes down all the way through I mean, Texas goes to, so there's a lot of people that use our water after we use it. And just above us, there's 7 wastewater plants. So 7 wastewater plants discharge into the creek before we even get it. And that just blew my mind because if you think about how many more add into it by the time it gets down there, like there's a necessity for our waters to be clean. There's no option.
That's right, because then it would just compound and build on each other if you
Mhm.
let something slide and it just kind of went on down.
Right.
I remember they were telling me that the Chicago River, they reversed it and then it goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, which is where we swim. And I always think, okay, I've got Chicago waste down here in my swimming, but they clean it up. They clean it up. And there is also nature that is a natural filter.
Mhm.
But it's nice to know that we have our professionals, especially when I think about then them taking that water and using it for drinking water as well. And I think that there's so much there we could go into. We don't have enough time today to talk about all the ways we can change waste into water that we can drink. But it's important, and the lab work that y'all are doing is so important too. And it's something that people don't think about. I mean, even if you thought about, um, you know, just water in general, you're not thinking about somebody in a lab. And so there's so many opportunities for just the different kinds of jobs in the water space. I know we've talked about that before, of just like the vastness of that as far as jobs go.
And it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I I have a very secure job, like job security. It's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Very
So
important.
if y'all have any questions about that, if you have any water questions whatsoever, you can ask Lindie. She is a great resource, and I just enjoy talking to you. And so I'm thankful, for you as part of our community, and just how you've jumped into the leadership and the thought leadership and speaking on these different topics. So thank you, Lindie, for sharing your time with me today.
Thanks, Charli.
And I am going to tell everyone to share this episode, like, subscribe, do all that amazing stuff so that it makes it easier for us to get people to see this. And also they need to know Lindie. So share it. And until next time, be empowering.